Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to be looking at Little Lit, Folklore and Fairy Tale Funnies, edited by Art Spiegelman and Francois Molly. And this was the first of three books edited by these two, where they took all of their, basically friends from Raw, the great magazine they used to edit. They cultivated, a crew of artists in that great comic. And also, they invited some artists and writers from the children's lit world, all to make comics for kids. And it's quite remarkable, this book. It's like, you won't believe the names in here. It's just like some of the biggest names in comic book history, but they're just doing these, for the most part, doing comics for kids. We start off with an Art Spiegelman cover here. Pretty nice. And this fairy is reading. I love this nebulous comic. You can just tell it's a comic, but it's like stripped down to its bare essentials. And she's reading this comic to all these cute little characters who, I like how this one has his Game Boy and is ignoring his Game Boy for this comic book reading session. It's kind of thin, but it's huge. Very beautifully designed, as almost all of Francois Mouly's and Art Spiegelman's books are. And Art Spiegelman also does this back cover as well as these are all little vignettes from each story by all the different artists. Okay, let me make sure this is still in frame. This book is humongous. This is a very big book, and I'm glad it is, because it's great, and I want to see the art bigger. So right off the bat, we start off with Chris Ware, Fairy Tale Road Rage for 1 to 4 players. This is a board game he created for this book. And we see that Chris Ware, this is before he had a kid. So he's kind of a cynical jerk. And he even says in the contributors page that he never liked fairy tales. He always hated them. So he does this thing where all the things have fairy tale names, but it's just some crappy town. Snow White Dry Cleaners, Gingerbread House, this little waffle hut type place, Princess P grocery store, the Enchanted Forest planned development. So here's the board game, and just typical great lettering and fontage from Chris Ware. And then we have these are actually perforated. So I think I have to slide this over so you can see this little flap here. These are perforated, and these are all turned into little cars for each of the 4 players. Grandma's bus, Princess's sport utility vehicle, Frog's station wagon, and Wolf's sport car. I would love to buy a second copy of this and try to make these. I bet they work, because Chris Ware was always putting these paper toys in all of his Acme novelty presses at the time. This book, this is even before Jimmy Corrigan came out as a graphic novel. This is going to continue on the inside back cover, so I got to keep checking, guys, to make sure I'm still in frame. This thing is so freaking big. I hope it's okay. Hope you can see everything. Okay. So here's one of the title pages, and here's the real title pages. Really love this logo. This is designed by Chip Kidd and Art Spiegelman. And the 2 editors dedicated to their kids, Nadja and Dashiell Spiegelman. That was the main impetus for them making this, because their kids could never read their stuff, because they were always making adult stuff. Really beautifully designed contents page here, and 2 pages of that. Indicia. And we start off with Prince Rooster, a Hasidic parable by Art Spiegelman. So there's this young prince who lives in this kingdom, and he tells his father, the king, he says, "Did you know that I'm really a rooster?" I really love Art Spiegelman's style like this kind of children's book style. It's very appealing. So it even comes to the point where he just starts crowing like cock-a-doodle-doodling, and takes off all of his clothes and starts running around. He really thinks he's a rooster. He won't sit at the dinner table. He won't eat roast beef because roosters don't. And they call up the court physician, the royal doctor. Nothing works. So the king calls physicians and magicians and miracle workers from all the corners of the kingdom to try to heal his son, or rid him of this silly notion. Nothing works. So they give up. One day, an old man came to the castle. The vizier at the castle is just like, go away. We're not looking for anyone anymore. But he says, listen, just tell the king, if you want to help someone who is stuck in the mud, you sometimes have to get your feet muddy. So the king agrees to see him. He kind of looks like Mr. Natural. And basically, he says, I can cure your son. And he immediately strips off all of his clothes and starts cock-a-doodling himself. And he introduces himself to the young prince. He says, I'm a rooster just like you. And the prince was glad to have a pal. The next day, the old man stands up, erect. And he says, what are you doing, friend rooster? He says, I got a cramp, so I'm just stretching. Just because you're a rooster doesn't mean you have to live under a table. Try it. See, us roosters can stand up and still be roosters. Next, he puts clothes on. He says, I was chilly. I can still be a rooster and wear clothes. Then he calls for lunch, and he's eating human food. And so the prince says, how can we eat and talk like men? And the old man says, you can dress like a man, eat like a man, and act like a man, but still really be a rooster. So the prince grew up to be a fine man, became a good and wise king, but sometimes at dawn, when he was all alone, he crowed at the sun. Cock-a-doodle-doo. I love that story. Next, we have Humpty Trouble by William Joyce. William Joyce is a famous children's book illustrator and writer. Really like his style. So Myron and Ethel Orbley loved eggs. They had quite a collection. They even had alien eggs in their collection from foreign planets. They heard in the newspaper about Humpty Dumpty, how he fell, and how all the king's horses and all the king's men could not do a thing. And so this affects the Orbleys very much. They're like, this breaks our hearts. We must go and travel and visit them, Humpty Dumpty, and see if we can help. So they get in their little dirigible, which is egg-shaped, of course. Man, I really love this art. Some of this almost looks like Mobius. So when they get to the land of Dumptyville, they find Humpty shattered. And Ethel says, listen up, guys. No more soldiers and horses, okay? We just need glue guns, elbow grease, and anybody who's good at jigsaw puzzles. This is such a startling image. That is amazing. I would buy children's books by this guy. He's really good. So they fix up Humpty Dumpty, and Humpty was shell-shocked, it says. He gave them a golden egg to reward them. So they left Dumptyland and headed home. By the time they arrived home, their maid said, I put all your eggs in one basket and they all hatched. So they have, 100 little kids now. I guess if you want a full life, you got to break some eggs. We don't just have comics in this book. We also have fun activity type pages. So here we have A Night to Remember. And this is Sir Featherbrain, and it's one of those memory kind of tests. And I have forgotten who drew this. I'm sorry. This guy didn't sign it. So I'll look on the contents page real quick. It's Evermulin. What is he, Dutch? I think he's a Dutch artist. One of those blonde countries. Next we have Dan Clowes doing Sleeping Beauty. Apparently this is based on an actual early version of Sleeping Beauty. I've never heard this variant. So it's pretty much the same story. But this tells what happens after the happily ever after. Yeah, that's a really great logo there. So after spending the night with the Sleeping Beauty, he returns to his parents. His mother is a troll. I don't know why the father married her. I'm sorry, she's an ogre. So he didn't dare tell them about his new bride because he couldn't trust his mom. Ogres aren't to be trusted. So he just commutes back and forth. He always tells his children are growing up. He has children with Sleeping Beauty. And he always says, someday I will be king and you will come live in my castle. So the old king dies, and he does. He takes over as king, and they come to live in his castle. There's a war. A war breaks out, so he has to put on his knight outfit and go off and fight. The mother says, I'll take good care of them while you're gone, which is the farthest thing from the truth. A few days after the son leaves, she meets the head cook and says, I want to eat the little girl for dinner. So the cook goes up there. He's scared to defy the ogre, his ogress. But this little girl is so cute and loving that he can't do it. So he takes her to his home. In her stead, a tender lamb was covered with delicious sauce. He tricked her. Next, a few weeks later, she says, ooh, now I want to eat the boy for dinner. He does the same thing. And a few days later, she says, now I want to eat the queen. So he goes to the queen, and as far as the queen knows, her children are dead. They've disappeared. She doesn't know that the cook has them safely ensconced in his home. So the cook says, follow me, because he can't stand to see her sorrow. And of course, she's filled with joy. She sees her children safe and sound. And then he pulls the same trick on the queen. I'm sorry, not the queen anymore. I guess the queen mother. And serves a very big roast, pretending it's the young queen. So one day she's strolling around and she looks in a window and she sees the queen and the two kids. She says, I've been deceived. And then she says, she orders the guards to fill a pit with vipers and toads, poisonous toads, all manners of serpents. They tie up the queen. She's going to throw her in. But right then the son comes home from war. And before they can throw the queen in, the young queen, the king's mother can't live with the shame. And she dives into the tub and kills herself. So it has a happy ending, except for the queen mother. Next is The Leafless Tree, after an old Dutch folktale by Juste Swarte. God, I love his stuff so much. It's so perfect. Even the lettering is amazing. So we see this poor family. Once again, they're eating leftovers. They've got no wood for the fire. They have to huddle together to stay warm. That night, a fairy visits the father. It says, go to Haarlem, wait on the bridge till fortune comes your way. So he listens to the fairy. Of course, the wife is all like, you fucking idiot, just go get a job. That's what we need. So he goes to this bridge. I love these colors, too. Everything about this. So then this guy shows up. He says, hey, I was watching you from my window. I also was visited by a fairy in a dream. She told me, go to Harlem, you'll find a pot of gold buried under a leafless tree. But I'm not crazy, I don't believe in that shit. Go home, buddy, you're wasting your time. So he heads home. So he only goes home, though, so he can get a shovel. So his dream, his fairy lied to him, but he thinks the other fairy might be telling the truth. So I guess there's a leafless tree right outside in his own yard. And he finds a pot of gold. So now we see a few months later, they're all rich. But they're not, it doesn't look like they're much happier. The son's like, oh, truffles again. The mother's like, this is cheap champagne. Send the whole case back. I like that one. Next we have Bruce McCall. Kind of world famous illustrator. He's been in like every magazine since I was a kid. This is Rapunzel's Daring Escape. What's wrong with this picture? And it's just one of those fun activity pages where, you know, there's mistakes and we see the answers here upside down. A lot of them are just silly. But I do like this shark fin in the water. These giraffes here. I hope this is in frame. Oh, this is a beautiful one. David Mazzucchelli, The Fisherman and the Sea Princess. It's a kind of a Japanese folktale. I don't know if he made it up, though. If it's a real folktale or if it's a faux tale. So one day, this fisherman sees these kids. They're going to kill this turtle for sport. He rescues the turtle, says, leave him alone, and throws him back in the ocean. The next day, his name's Taro, or Taro. The turtle visits him and says, the Sea King wants to thank you for saving my life. He gets on the turtle and swims down to the Sea King, to the Sea King's castle. I love this panel of him. This I could just picture just being the most wonderful animated cartoon. Him riding this turtle under the water with all these amazing variety of fish swimming around. So he gets there, and as soon as he meets the princess, the daughter of the Sea King, he falls in love. And it seems like she loves him too. Her name's Princess Oto. And here we see them as the days and months pass, and they're married. Every day's a pleasure. 3 years passed. But one day Taro was sad. He says, my parents and friends must miss me. I wanted to go back and visit them. She says, if you go back, you'll never return. I love just the way he draws her with these robes. It's so beautiful. So she says, take this box with you to remember me. It holds a secret that will keep you safe, but you must never open it no matter what. As these tears fall down her face. So he comes out in the beach, and it's modern day Japan. I guess time travels differently under the sea. And he's very confused. And he meets an old man. And he seems to know who he is. He says, Urashimi Taro, you went out to sea and never came back. But that was 300 years ago. He just thinks he's crazy. But Taro can't resist opening the box. He thinks it'll explain why everything is so weird. And this mist comes out, and it turns him into his real age, as if he was never under the sea. He's still alive, though, so he's not 330 years old. So, but it does age him terribly, and he will never see the princess again. Very sad. I love this simple cartooning, though. This one's great. It's Lorenzo Mattotti drawing it, and Kramsky, who I don't remember his first name. Let me see if they even tell us in the contents. This guy Kramsky writing it. I think they've worked together before. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't even tell us. I guess Lorenzo Mattotti is such a big name that they don't even care. So this is the two hunchbacks. There was two hunchback brothers, I meant to say. And the littler one here, he says, I'm going off to seek my fortune. He's scared. He's very scared of the woods. He hears noises, so he climbs a tree. And then these three singing grandmas show up. And they're just singing this song that goes, Sunday, Monday, Sunday, Monday, Sunday, Monday. And he just yells down, and Tuesday. And they're like, Tuesday? What a great idea. I can't believe we never thought of that. Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. They changed their song. And they're very grateful to him. They say, what would you like as a reward? And he says, I would like to be free of this hump. I love the way he draws these. They're just very funny looking. These three singing grandmas. So this is really gnarly for a kid's thing. They actually saw his hump off. And then they hang it from a tree for some reason. But it works and he looks fine and he doesn't have a hump anymore. So he returns home, shows his brother his hunchless back, and he tells the brother says, how did you do it? So he runs off to find these three singing grandmas. Now they're singing their new song, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So he goes, and Wednesday. But for some reason for him, they're like, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday? Who is this idiot? He ruined our song. I love the way he draws them. So he doesn't get a reward, he gets punished. And they say, we know what you deserve. And so this guy returns home, and now he's got two humps. And he says, oh, my aching back. I really like that story. Just like all the things Art Spiegelman edits, he always has to put in like some vintage classic example of comics, which is nice. So here's a 40s era, 1943 era Walt Kelly story that he did for Fairy Tale Parade. I love that they show us the cover and everything. This is really kind of delightful. I wish somebody would publish all these Walt Kelly kind of fairy tales. So this is the Gingerbread Man. And, you know, it's telling the story of the Gingerbread Man. Also, but some of the dialogue is a little updated. You know, has some 40s slang in it. So one day, an old woman, an old man, and a little boy, the woman cooked a gingerbread man. The old woman told the boy to keep an eye on it. The gingerbread man escapes and runs away. And they can't catch up to him. And they give up. Eventually we see these two guys, Pierre and Gustave. The gingerbread man kind of brags to them. He's like, I can outrun you too. And he does. Next, a bear tries to eat him. He easily leaps over him. And a wolf does as well. And he easily outruns the wolf. It's kind of funny looking. He reminds me of Soft Boy by Archer Pruitt. But then finally he sees a fox just sitting there lazily. And he's just playing it cool. He's just like, hey, gingerbread man, where you going? And he brags again. He says, I outrun all these people and I can outrun you too. And he says, what's that? He says, I can outrun you too. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm a little deaf. Until he gets close enough and then he grabs him. And he summarily eats him. And as the gingerbread goes down, he says, I hope I give you indigestion. And so ends all Gingerbread Man. And that's great. This is, I guess, a traditional fairy tale, or I've never heard this one, though. The Baker's Daughter. There's a baker's daughter. She's very mean. She never gives so much as a crumb away. And, you know, there's this sad street guy with his kid kind of looking in the window. And she's like, get out of here. There's no food for you if you got no money. I love the way he draws this. Or she. This is, actually, let me see real quick. Dum, 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 dum. That's me. Harry Bliss, I believe, is a children's book author. Really sharp art. This is pretty nice. So this woman, kind of a wealthy woman, looking woman, she sees this sad turn of events. This poor man and his son. So she dresses up as a beggar lady. She comes in and asks for a little piece of dough. And for once, The baker's daughter's like, okay. She pinches off a little bit and puts it in the oven. When she opens the door of the oven, it's a giant loaf. So she's like, I'm not giving you that. She pinches off an even smaller piece. When she opens the door, it's an even bigger loaf. And it just happens over and over again. That was this humongous loaf. Meanwhile, the woman shed her ragged clothes. And the baker's daughter's like, what? Who? And the woman says, who? That's all you'll ever say again. The world's put up with your meanness long enough. And she turns her into an owl. A very beautifully drawn owl, by the way. And the baker's daughter flew away, never to be seen again. It's kind of interesting that the one time she gives in and decides to give someone a little bit of dough is when she's punished. Next, we have the graphic artist J. Otto Seibold. I'm pretty sure I've seen this guy in like Blab and stuff. He doesn't really do much comics. He's kind of a hugely in-demand graphic design type artist. So this is Can You Find the Twins? This is just an activity page. You have to find the ones that exactly match up. This is another great one, Jack and the Beanstalk. Just retelling the tale, but just with a little more humor. And once again, I got to check real quick who this is. This is David Macaulay. This guy wrote that book, Cathedral and the Way Things Work. Those illustrated books. This is his first comic he's ever made. It's pretty damn good, too. And it almost reminds me of like a more detailed Gan Wilson, some of these panels. So it's the typical story of Jack and the Beanstalk. You know, he gets some magic seeds, magic beans, grows the beanstalk. It's the same story, but it's just kind of told with a lighthearted touch. But it's very similar to the way you heard it as a kid. You know, he steals the golden goose, he steals the singing harp. Really good art, though. Oh, this is amazing. Spooky Land by Charles Burns. Find all the snakes and eggs in this picture. So another activity page for kids. This is really interesting because I wonder, you know, how many little kids, first of all, even got to read this book, or if it was just bought like by comic geeks like me. But I wonder what they would think. Because Charles Burns, even when he's just drawing a mountainside, it looks insidious and not kid-friendly. You know what I'm saying? This is heavy black inking. It seems anathema to a child who, you know, they want to see all colorful things. But there is definitely things in here where I think a weird kid, the kind of kid who maybe liked Gan Wilson and Edward Gorey, would love this. Look at this little cute Cyclops baby here. And then there's traditional cute things like this little bear family. Giant snail. This is really fun to look at. And of course it's Charles Burns. It's fucking gorgeous. This is genuinely creepy to me. I don't know if I saw that looming over the hills. I would just I think I would just commit suicide. I wouldn't want to face reality knowing that exists in the world. So of course there's plenty of snakes and eggs in here. I didn't really try to count each one. But, oh, what a beautiful piece of work here. This is a little one-pager from Claude Ponty. Beautiful cartoony here. It's called The Enchanted Pumpkin. I think he's another children's book artist. I'm going to check on that. I should have did a little more research before I started this video. He's a French cartoonist. Oh, he is a children's book author from France. That's what I don't really understand, but I love the lively way he draws her dancing. Like, this guy just totally knows the human form and just the way bodies move. It's very cartoony, but it's also really just like, it's beautifully animated in a weird way. It's really nice. And God, those colors are gorgeous. Really, I definitely want to see more art by this guy. This is great. I would love to read more children's comics from Kaz. This is Kaz, who's probably never thought to do a kid's comic in his life until he was approached by Art Spiegelman. I think this is an actual folk tale. So we see a village, and this witch is selling a very skinny horse. And this farmer comes up and says, it looks pretty skinny. It's like, hey, looks could be deceiving. He's an enchanted horse. He works tirelessly, but under one condition, you must never feed him. If you feed him even one scrap of food, he won't work hard anymore. So he's too poor to buy the horse, so he steals the horse when the witch is asleep. Over the next weeks and months and years, she was true to her word. This horse just worked tirelessly, and he could never give him food. Yeah, the farmer becomes quite wealthy. His farm becomes very prosperous because of this horse. Look at that as the guy from Underworld, making a little cameo. Kaz's comic strip. And so one day, he finally breaks down after like 10 years and says, you look so hungry and sad. Maybe a little scrap of bread wouldn't hurt. And then it goes poof, and he turns into this weird jaundiced-looking fellow. He says, who are you? He says, I was the horse. And then he runs into his house, burns it down, and steals all of his gold. Of course, he asks, why have you done this? And the jaundiced fellow says, for 10 years you worked me ragged. And he says, but I just gave you bread. He says, yeah, for that piece of bread I'm sparing your life. And then he runs off. Completely broke, the farmer was reduced to begging, stealing, and then robbing. He became the terror of the countryside. Even the police were afraid of him. So eventually the villagers went to that witch, the same witch, and said, could you, we'll give you 6 gold coins if you take care of our problem. She finds the farmer sleeping and turns him into a new skinny, hungry horse. And it looks like the whole thing's going to start all over again. Man, Kaz was made for kids' comics. I never would have thought that until I read that comic, but I would love to read more of that stuff. This artist is incredible, and I'll probably have to look it up again. Sorry about that, guys. But this is Barbara McClintock. Once again, a children's book illustrator. God, the level of her illustration is so high. This is some beautiful, gorgeous-looking stuff. So once again, this is pretty much the story of the Princess and the Pea. But everyone's an anthropomorphic animal. And all of them are beautifully drawn. So, there's a young prince. Even though his parents have found him every princess in the region, he doesn't love any of them. But one day, this woman comes to the door. She says, I need shelter. Totally falls for her. She says that her father was a king who lost his kingdom. So, as far as the parents are concerned, she's a commoner. So they test to see if she's a princess by putting, 27 mattresses and a little pea at the bottom. And if she could feel it, that means she's a princess. I never understood that. Why princesses have extrasensory perception and they can sense a little pea. And then, so there's a happy ending because she feels the pea. So, that, of course, she's royalty. And at the wedding day, she says, I'm so happy, Lionel, but ouch, there's a stone in my shoe. And a cute ending. But, oh man, the art is definitely the main reason for this comic. Here's the contributor notes. And we have the second part of that game. So we have, of course, Chris Ware being a nut job. He gotta make sure there's a frame. So these are all little chits. And they're called storyboards. So it's like a frog, a grandma, a princess, a wolf. And it's almost like Mad Libs. Because it says a wolf who was the superlative adjective, noun, occupation, verb, adjective, noun. So I guess when you roll on this board, you pick up one of these colored chits that matches with the word form. And it makes a story, which I actually think is really clever and would probably be really fun to play. And leave it up to Chris Ware to make it this children's board game where they're actually making comics, basically. Or at least stories. But, and then we have this nice, the instructions here. And we get a little mini cameo from Rusty Brown and Chalky White. Collectors extraordinaire. And of course, this, Chris Ware's so good at this, like, doing this mock prose, just adding these little sardonic, hilarious things. The highest roll of the die goes first. In case of a four-way tie, begin again, draw lots, or simply go outside and play for a while. Or ask your mother or father whom they prefer most. There's all stuff like that throughout it. He's such a smart guy, Chris Ware. It's just so funny. At least he was. At one time, he was very funny. God, look at this. He's flawless, just graphic design. He's so good. And then here's, we kind of do get a little story. Once upon a time, and it says start, 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 start. Of course, it's a very complicated comic page, as Chris Ware likes to do. So here's the frog story. Goes here. And then when you flip it, there's the wolf story. All of these people intersect with the other characters and kind of contradict what you thought was happening before. Here's the princess. And here's the grandma. This is amazing, this page. Like, it's actually an amazingly great comic. Just the playfulness of it, the play with the the form and stuff. What Chris Ware does on a daily basis, or at least he used to. So pretty amazing. And that's it for Little Lit, the first one. We're going to be looking at the next two, the second and third, over the coming week or two, maybe 3 weeks. I don't know how long it'll take, but I hope you guys like looking at this. I mean, I kind of worry about you if you didn't, because this thing is fucking amazing. I'm so glad they made this. I wish there was 30 of them. I wish they came out with one every year. And I can't even remember what's in the second and third, and I'm really excited to read those in the next few days and rediscover these, because once again, this came out in 2000. I haven't read this in 25 years. I haven't even picked it up off the shelf. And I'm glad I did last night. So hope you guys like looking at this, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.